I will call the October 10th meeting of the Traffic Review Advisory Board meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome. The Traffic Review Board reviews items of interest regarding parking and traffic items. We are an advisory board, and our favorable recommendation today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council. The council can accept or reject any recommendation from this board. If you don't agree with our decision, you can discuss the item with any council member. If the board does not recommend an item, a council member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding that item. All items require 2 readings before the Common Council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, October 24th at 6 p.m., and you will be allowed to speak on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, November 14th at 6 p.m., the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will in fact take action. You will again be allowed to speak. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time if you'd like to speak, please step up to the podium and give your name and address. I do ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the particular agenda item. The item will then come back to this board for discussion and action. Please call the roll.
Krause?
Here.
Szynski?
Here.
Wanschneider?
Here.
Becker?
Here.
Christensen?
Here.
Haas?
Here.
First item on today's agenda is approval of prior minutes. Need a second.
Second.
Any questions, comments, deletions, or additions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Krause?
Aye.
Szynski?
Aye.
Wanschneider?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Christensen?
Aye.
Haas?
Aye.
Carried.
Which then brings us to the public comment portion of the meeting. This board has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for general public comment on a first-come, first-served basis. Citizens must provide both name and address and may speak on matters related to traffic items within the authority of this board. Statements should be addressed to board members and not to staff or other persons. Items that are on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read and not during the period for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment one time unless special permission is granted by this board. Does anyone wish to avail themselves of the opportunity? Seeing none, we will move to new. Oh, I'm sorry. At the podium, please, both name and address for the record.
Pat Groff, Swanson Wiper Corporation, 645 Leeward Court West, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We are looking for no parking zone along the Leeward Court, both sides. Currently, there's construction going on the east side of Leeward. On that construction, there are a number of the construction vehicles being parked along the side of the road, and they are blocking access to our truck docks for deliveries and shipments. We're looking just to get that closed off so that we can maintain our shipping routes. Thank you.
Are you going to be available for questions, should we have any, when we actually get to that item on the agenda? Okay. Which then brings us to new business. The first of which is a request for no parking on West Leeward Court, both sides, from 373 feet west of Bowen Street to its northern terminus. Current condition, no parking restriction.
Okay, so as Mr. Graff just explained, he did basically explain what's going on there. So Swanson Wiper is requesting no parking, up in that area. If I can get my mouse under control here. But like he had mentioned, there is currently construction going on there. There's an apartment complex and some garages going up on this parcel here. I believe in the past I may have talked to them about some issues they have because they do have docks over here and they have trouble getting the semis in and out. So currently it's the construction workers, but then they're also concerned with what will happen, once these apartments go up. So I will try to drop this guy here. Oops, it keeps going too far.
Anyone have any questions or concerns? I see.
I do. Mouse is a little too touchy, I think. So you can see here Leeward Court comes down this way and then it makes the curve. And Swanson Wipers, here's their docks. So generally the pavement was 36 feet, and generally we do restrict parking on both sides in industrial parks. This is kind of an interesting area because it's an older industrial area with a lot of different uses through there. The few times I've went through there, I haven't really seen too much parking there, but I can understand that there might be some construction vehicles parked there. I know people park on Leeward Court, between here and Bowen, but I haven't really seen a lot of demand in this area. I guess there's one car there. And we did obviously, I think we talked a little bit earlier, but we did notify all the property owners here, and I don't know that any of them are in attendance. Okay, one of them is. So okay, if you want to step out, just give us.
Name and address, please.
Heather Holly Pino, 740 Leeward Court and 717 Leeward Court. We don't care actually about the no restrictions on that part, or no parking on that, the actual proposal. I have a question on the other part of Leeward Court. Because Swanson Wipers trucks, I understand, need to get to their docks, but they continuously block our driveways. So we're, I guess, looking if there are going to be any changes on that part. So the part from Bowen to the corner.
The curve?
Yes.
Is it a situation where the queues or the trucks are waiting in queue to actually get to the dock, or is this a long-term park situation?
No, they're queuing up, but like our driveway to get into our shop and where our front door is, where our customers walk in, is totally blocked. So people can drive by and not even see us. So, I mean, there's a spot, if you keep that picture up, there's a spot where that car is parked right next to our dumpster. From there, excuse me, from there to the corner is plenty of room for one semi, and then further back towards Bowen, there's a grassy part next to one of our next door neighbor. If you keep going a little bit further. Yeah, right there, that grassy part. Those are basically the only two spots, but then they park all in between there, which is covering, like I said, the front of our building and driveways. So I'm wondering, clearly this is probably not part of the proposal at all, but I'm just asking that question.
Right. So I guess I could refer to Mr. Graff from Swanson, see if they, it sounds like maybe that's something you could work out with your truck drivers.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have any questions on the proposal as written? All right, seeing none, call a roll.
Rousey.
Aye.
Sisnowski.
Aye.
Von Schneider.
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Yeah, I guess I would just recommend, maybe you guys could exchange information, and I'm sure that's something you guys could work
Yeah,
out.
that should be relatively easily solved, I would hope. Since there won't be any cars parked on the upper half of the street anymore, that should give you that queuing space. All right, item 2, a request for modification of the no parking zone on Westfield Ave, east side, to no parking from 612 feet to 672 feet south of Oshkosh Ave. Current condition, no parking east side from 556 feet south of Oshkosh Ave to 723 feet south.
Okay, this is a request from Evergreen Retirement Community, and Arneson is here from Evergreen. But we met out there, and the expansion will be complete this fall. Westfield Street was reconstructed this summer. It's just about done with a bump out, or the road is done actually, with a pedestrian bump out there. So when we met out there, Evergreen was asking if this could be modified so they could get a little more parking space. It looks like the no parking zone was established in 1989, and that was to allow drivers adequate vision exiting the driveway. But now with the reconstruction, it's an exit only. And the street was narrowed from 48 to 38 feet. So the street, a normal collector is 36 feet, so 2 feet were added to allow for a little extra parking. And then also with the new layout, the vehicle speeds are quite a bit lower. And we don't feel that the larger no parking area is needed anymore. I am recommending leaving it about 20 feet from the driveway on each side, and that'll give it a little more room than the statutory 4 feet. And that'll, give this adequate vision and give them a little bit more room for parking. So that's, I'd pull it up on here. I can pull it up on here, but it's gonna be an old picture, so I don't know if it's gonna do as much good.
Sure. If you want to comment or add something to the discussion, this would be the opportunity.
Ken Arneson, 1130 North Westfield. I'm the CEO at Evergreen. With this, we also met with Davis Childcare in figuring out this plan, so that way it would be something that would work both for them and for us. One of our overall objectives with parking with the remodeling is we increase the number of parking stalls on our lot. We have 58, where in the past I think we had a little bit over 20. So this area is really utilized more for times when we have some overflow, but it definitely is something that we need. So we would appreciate any support for it. And we're hoping in the future it'll be adjacent to our new neighbors from Oshkosh Corp.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? I believe, it was my oversight on the first agenda item, we need a second to move this forward.
Second.
Last call for any questions. All right, call the roll.
Krause,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Weinschneider,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
carried 6-0.
Which brings us to item 3, a request for 2-hour parking on 6th Ave North Side from Nebraska Street to 262 feet east. Current condition, 2-hour parking north side from 30 feet east of Nebraska to 262 feet east. Loading zone, north side from Nebraska Street to 30 feet east of Nebraska Street.
Okay, this request, this one and the next one are from the developers that are redeveloping the greenery. This first request, basically all it's doing is, it's already 2-hour parking along most of this stretch. It's just eliminating the loading zone. They said they don't have a need for a loading zone, so they wanted this to, as much 2-hour parking as possible. So that's what the first request is.
Yeah, makes perfect sense, in my opinion, but in need of a second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Call the roll.
Krause,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Weinschneider,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
motion carried 6-0.
Item 4, a request for 4-hour angled parking on West Fifth Ave, both sides, from Nebraska Street to 220 feet west. Current condition, recently improved one-way street.
Okay, this one, I need to amend it to east. It should say 220 feet east. That was an oversight on my
Ooh.
part. So, but it's basically from Nebraska, it's behind the greenery from Nebraska going 220 feet to the east. I don't think we're gonna be able to get a picture back there, but they've currently, as redeveloping the greenery, they mill and overlaid the street back here, and then they've also milled and overlaid a lot of this parking lot and made it an island in here, as well as closed this driveway access and added a new one over here. So it's a really good improvement. If you go out there and take a look at it, it's more clearly defined where you can come in and out. And then back here, they have that stripe for angled parking, and the developer had asked for as much 4-hour parking as possible back here, which, because a lot of the parking is in the right of way. That's where we would have a say in it. Because this is mostly right of way. There's a tiny little bit of it, first few feet, I believe, are still private property, but most of it's in the right of way. And so it's already striped, and it's striped as a one-way going this way. And we've just worked on putting the signs out there for the one-way, and then we'll have to work on the handicap and parking signs.
Why 4 hour?
You know, that's a good question. I was actually, I've been kind of, we've been playing phone tag for a while, but and I clarified with him, that's what you want 4 hour parking or,
Seems like
you know,
overkill.
or unrestricted, and he said they were asking for 4 hour.
So did he share any insight with you on why that might be compared to the 2 hour that we just?
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously the point.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure people
Sure.
understand that.
Yeah, it's 2
Seems
hours
to
on
be
the
some
street in
disconnect
front.
there.
And I assume they want a little bit longer for the parking in the back.
Would it be possibly because of the restaurant bar that they're having, that they can have people in there longer than 2 hours?
Right, I'm sure.
Well, but then you got to mandate, you know, when someone walks in, where did you park? Which,
Yeah.
Right,
again, so.
yeah,
Jim, might be for staff parking.
I could be.
True.
Consistency would be better. But it'd be better to just have better consistency with time frames.
I don't think he's gonna want 2 hour, but I'm thinking that, in my opinion, it's either 4 hour unrestricted, you know, back there, and then 2 hour in the front would make sense.
So long as it's clearly signed, I don't have an issue, but I just don't want to get in a mess with
Right.
someone that assumed, because they saw a sign on the side of the building,
Right.
that parking was allowed for 4 hours in front of the building as well. So long as it's clearly noted, I'm sure law enforcement would appreciate that as well. Because
Yeah.
that'll prevent them from having a
Yeah.
Right.
necessary conversation.
So I guess,
Trickery, you don't want
if you want, because I gotta fix it anyway I mean, we could table it, and I could just clarify with them, hey, you know, the concern is it's 2 hours in the front, are you sure that's what you want? Because it's gonna be inconsistent.
Maybe he could give some clarification on why he's
Right.
asking for 2 different times too.
Yeah, I tried to call him this morning, but haven't been able to get a hold of him. Clarify
Yeah, I
that,
think
because,
Move to table until such time as Mr. Collins is able to get an answer for us on that particular question. Get a second, Ross?
Second.
All in favor of the motion to table?
Aye.
Aye. It's tabled.
Table.
I assume, Jim, when it comes back, it will be
yeah.
with an amendment attached?
Yep.
Fix the details, potentially. All right, which then brings us to Agenda 5. A request for bike lanes and no parking on Washington Ave, both sides from Main Street to Broad Street. Current conditions, no parking north side from Main Street to 60 feet west, 60 feet east, my apologies, no parking south side from current, it's a long day, from Court Street to 55 feet west, no parking south side from Court Street to 54 feet east, no parking south side from State Street east to a distance of 100 feet, no parking south side from Main Street to State Street, 2 hour parking south side from 100 feet east of State Street to 55 feet west of Court Street between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. daily except on Sundays and holidays, 2 hour parking south side from 54 feet east of Court Street to Broad Street, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., loading zone north side from 71 feet east of North Main Street to 92 feet east of North Main Street. Looking for a second. If you make me read that again, I'm not going to do it.
Second.
All right, well, this is, we had the workshop earlier with the traffic review and the bike and pedestrian committee. So you got some background on this, but for anybody who doesn't have background, Washington Street's being reconstructed, this coming year. And as part of that, our Public Works Department needs to get the plans out. This part of Washington Avenue was slated for bike lanes in the 2011 Bike and Pedestrian Plan. So if they were going to be put in, it's going to require removing parking. And if they're gonna be put in, now would be the time to put them in, is when the reconstruction's happening, because as we've learned over the last few years, it's hard to retrofit streets for things like bike lanes later. So they can build it for the bike lanes if that's it's decided. As you can see, there's a lot of different varying parking regulations currently on Washington Avenue. Probably the best reference is, which is in your packet, is the map that's in there in agenda item number 5, and you can kind of see, you know, there's some pockets of 2-hour parking, and then a lot of no parking. So, and then we can, you know, we have the plans as well, we can pull up on the computer, and then Mr. Godey's here from Public Works as well, if there's any questions on that.
We have a
Does
second.
it-
Oh,
Does this create any hardships that anybody's brought up on Washington?
I haven't personally heard from anyone.
we have someone that's expressed an interest in speaking. If you would, step to the podium and provide name and address.
Well, my residence address or the property I own?
In this case, the property or the address in
Okay.
question.
Paul
applies to.
Redeman, and I own the property at 115 Washington Avenue. That's the one-story building, the old Getman Printing Building, and used as my office at one time. I oppose the removal of the parking on Washington Ave. My building has 3 spaces to the south of it, 1 to the west, and about 5 to the east right now. My building has approximately 4,000 square foot of office space, and one of the reasons my current tenant is leaving is because, which is World Relief, they're the current tenant there. They're leaving, one of the reasons is because of current limited parking. That situation. With Discovery Properties, which is the building to the west, the old Washington building that they just renovated into apartments, since they've recently purchased the majority of the city parking to the southwest, and it'd be southwest of my building and south of the Washington building there, and he's building garages on those right now. With them purchasing the majority of that city parking lot, it leaves even less available parking for the buildings that front on Washington Ave. There's 4 of them. I mean, in that immediate area, the old post office to the east of my building, the Masonic Temple across the street, my building, and the Washington building. If the on-street parking is taken away from the front of these buildings, those spaces are basically lost forever. If you decide against the bike lanes, bicycles can still travel on the road or sidewalk, just as they have for decades. So what is more important to the central business district? Bicycles or parking for the businesses in the area? Again, for the previously mentioned reasons, I strongly oppose removing the parking on Washington Avenue. Thank you for allowing me to voice my concern.
If you could, Jim,
Yep.
make a range, no, I'm sorry,
Oh.
yep. Flip us 180 degrees. The diagram, keep going.
Sorry.
Yep. That's nope, too far. I wanted to actually view down the street. A little farther left, right there. The concern I have with this is depicted in the picture. I mean, it's obviously used parking. I mean, it's being utilized at this point. And when we had the workshop session, I professed ambivalence, and I've actually come off of that position at this point. If one of our express goals as a city is to promote downtown, I see this as contrary to that goal ultimately. And I hadn't considered this until you brought it up as a picture, but I'm going to not support agenda item 5 for that reason. Anyone else care to weigh in? Mr. Godey.
I just want to clarify one item, just so it doesn't come back later. When we do reconstruct the street, the crosswalks for ADA purposes will be put in, and we'll do it to the ADA compliance, which may result in the loss of some parking stalls throughout the area, just so that it's out there and
Sure.
aware of that ahead of time.
And again, there's nothing we can do about that. That's a non-decision on, by federal law, right? I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, just want to make sure that.
But I don't want to sacrifice any more.
Correct, but the parking stalls are much too close to it to meet current standards, so we'll lose stalls adjacent to that in order to meet the statutes.
Move the ADA ramp.
Ben, I think you make a very good point.
Yeah.
On promotion of downtown and handicapping people with no parking. Would be nice to continue bike lanes on Washington, but not at the expense of businesses. So I go along with Dan.
Are the sidewalks gonna be any wider than they currently are now?
At this point in time, depending on the area you're at through here, we will have some areas that may have wider sidewalks, specifically the first block off of Main Street due to the higher building. We may have a wider sidewalk there just because of not being able to grow grass in that area. As it proceeds east, we're proposing to have essentially, I believe, a full sidewalk width in the first block from Main to State Street, which I think is a little bit wider. I don't have well, actually, it was a 12-foot sidewalk roughly for the first block from North Main Street to State Street. As we proceeded east of there, we're proposing to, with the exception in front of the library, which I believe was going to be a wider stretch yet again, at 10 to 12 feet. We could either have sidewalk wider or go, because the street is narrow, we may have enough space to actually be able to put in a terrace with trees and plantings. So may be able to actually get down, the sidewalk in effect may narrow to 5 feet, but it would be off the street, so its effective width would be wider because we wouldn't have the power poles in it, street signs, any of those other impediments. One point I do want to bring up, and it's just because I'm not sure if the committee is aware of that the Eagles Club at the far east end has acquired a majority of the properties around it and is going to be demoing those and building their own parking lot to service that east end of the site. So their need for the on-street parking may change from its current configuration, or will change from its current configuration. Again, simply information.
True, but at this point, that Eagles Club has been vacant for a while, so there's really no additional demand. Again, I don't know, what's the date on this picture? October. Oh, wow, okay, so it's a year old. So the Eagles Club was non-operational at that point, but yet the point is there's cars parked.
I think where those
Down
cars
close to
parked,
it.
they're in front of this, I guess it used to be the post office, I heard, but that's the Oshkosh Office Complex, I
Right,
think it's called.
but my point is, eventually it's gonna fill. If there was an additional need, it would fill further to the east.
You see
which
there's
gets it.
construction on that picture though.
But
so
yeah,
that's
this
part
is,
of
I
the
think,
parking
when
lot.
Mount Vernon was being reconstructed, maybe.
So I wonder if people are,
Oh, good
Or the-
point. Okay.
Oh, the parking lot, sorry, yeah.
Oh,
So that, I mean, that could affect this.
'cause I drive down that street every day between 2 and 3, and there's people walking out of the county building across the street, so they're parking over there too.
Yeah, the county, actually, they lease some stalls a block over in the Otter East lot, which is, where the post office is, right next to the post office, so I know they walk kind of through this area, to work and back, and they actually just lease some extra stalls in the CP lot. But, yeah, I don't, it's hard to say. I mean, I know when the Y was being constructed, there was a little more parking over here as well, but now that that's done, they got their extra their parking lot. Hard to say. I don't know if anybody else was here to speak to that, or.
if there is, this would be the opportunity.
Jim, I can speak to the Washington, or the Broad Street section.
Okay, sure. Great.
Jim Marvin, 424 Washington. I'm the facilities manager for Clarity Care, which is on the corner of Washington and Broad Street. The Eagles property will expand some parking, but I can tell you from experience when the building was open prior, you will still see a lot of parking across the front of there, even though they're expanding that parking space just because they're events. We would often see a lot of spillover from their events into our parking onto Broad Street. They do own a lot on the northeast corner across the tracks also, which Myron's been using as part of their Y construction, but that'll go back to the Eagles building, I believe, also. But we often see a lot of parking along the south side of the road, very little on the north side of the road. So I don't know where you are as far as planning the road and stuff, but because of some discussion about wider sidewalks along the north side of the road, I guess I would maybe like to see some consideration for a multi-purpose lane or multi-purpose sidewalk along the north side and a standard sidewalk along the south, if that's viable, and take the bike lane off of the road and put it in with a multi-purpose walkway. If that's even a possibility, I don't know, but it's just, I mean, it'll be something to consider.
Any other board members wish to weigh in?
And east of Broad is gonna be a Shero, or?
That was the discussion, I believe, at the last.
And, isn't Algoma off of Main a Shero as well, or?
It is. Yeah, it goes from the bike lane to Jackson, and then I believe it switches to Sherrill at Jackson.
So I mean, if we made this a Shero, I mean, it wouldn't be a great hardship since surrounding portions are a Shero as well.
Yep, that's a possibility.
The Eagles Club, there's gonna be the 2 parking lots, one on each side. Is that gonna be exclusive to the Eagles Club since they own the properties, or is that gonna be public parking?
That I don't know.
'Cause I would assume unless there's some big event going on, there's gonna be plenty of parking
Right.
there, at least for that portion of the street.
Yeah, I don't know if, you know. Okay. Yeah, I know Alexa talked to them about the bike lanes, and didn't really have a strong opinion on it, but, I don't
Probably because
think
they
we-
have plenty of parking.
Yeah, I don't think we talked to them specifically about their parking lots.
Well, my understanding is the former Eagles Club is going to be utilized as an event venue, weddings, whatever. So if we put a bike lane in front of there, I foresee limousines and pick and drops there quite frequently, which again defeats the purpose of having that bike lane there, because we know that if it's posted no parking, it's gonna happen in that location. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I suspect I'm not.
It's not really a high-speed area, I mean, so I don't know if we'd really need the bike lanes. I mean, it's nice to have them everywhere if possible, but, I mean, it's plenty of room to share the street too. And Dan does bring up a good point about the Eagles Club. There's gonna be plenty of parking in the front, people just dropping people off, so but that's gonna be at night more so.
True, but in the warmer months, you still have the possibility for bike traffic there, I would imagine.
Well, the Sharo option is available, I mean, multi-use can be accomplished, kind of a middle-of-the-road approach.
So now I've heard the two of you talk about alternatives. Is there any formal request to amend to?
Amend it to a Shero, or?
That was your idea. I'm very carefully trying not to put words in your mouth, but I just want to focus the discussion a bit.
we vote on the resolution, and then if it fails, then.
Well, but
amend to a
we're not
share or
publicly
no?
noticed to do that, so you'd
Oh.
actually have to amend what's here.
Okay.
It's a little sticky.
I would second that.
I'll move to amend it to a Sharrow instead of a bike lane,
From Main Street
to Broad.
to Broad? Discussion on, thereby striking the rest of the, okay, just so we're on the same page.
Could that be defined? I'm unfamiliar with that term.
It's a marking in the roadway, which it stands for shared right-of-way, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's a notation to both cars and bicyclists that they both have right to the road in that particular location.
Which they do anyways.
Right,
So the
it's,
way things have been going on for years and
Don't
years.
have the individual white line 3, 4, 5 feet from the curbing. You have a symbol in the middle in the driving area.
by both parties.
Says shared, Sharrow. Yeah.
Discussion on the issue as amended.
Seems like a,
The right way to
seems
go.
like a good compromise, really.
Call the roll on the amended resolution.
Krause,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Weinschneider,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, then we get back to the motion in chief, which is, as we just voted upon, the implementation of Sharrows in that area from Main Street to Broad along Washington Avenue, both sides. Additional questions, comments, concerns?
What are your guys' opinion on it?
I'm neutral. I mean, it's, you know, it isn't, what's gonna happen is, it's gonna get a recommendation from this board, and then I think it's on the agenda for the Bike and Pedestrian Committee next Thursday, right? So they'll get a recommendation from that board, and then it'll ultimately go to council, and they'll have to say on, so it'll either go, you know, it depends on what Bike and Ped recommends, but then council will ultimately decide. But, you know, I guess on the downside is it is in that council-approved bike and pedestrian plan, so if you follow the plan, it's in there. But, on the other hand, I understand there's a demand for parking in that area, so, you know, I don't have any personal interest in one way or the other. I could see it going either way. And I know that, I won't speak for Public Works, but I don't think they really have an opinion on it one way or another, other than they need to know how to build the road, right?
Correct. Hope so.
Just got blueprints to do, yeah.
So,
Anyone else before I call the roll? Please call the roll.
Krause,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Weinschneider,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Item 6, a request for bike lanes on Wisconsin Street, both sides, from the curb cuts on the north side of the bridge to Irving Avenue. Current condition, no bike lanes.
and this is coming back as we talked again at the workshop with the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. We originally, proposed as part of that bike and pedestrian plan is that there would be bike lanes from the south end of the Wisconsin Street Bridge, going down to Irving to connect to the bike lanes there. And this committee voted against it last time, mostly because of concerns with having the bikes in the right of way or in the road, actually, and having the conflicts potentially between that and cars, as well as the curve on the bridge and the parapet wall that's there between the sidewalk and the street. So there was concerns there. So we discussed potentially amending that to start the bike lanes on the north side of the bridge, and then continuing them on to Irving. So we're bringing back that proposal.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Comments, questions, concerns? Ross?
Is there a way of encouraging the bicyclists to stay on, while on the bridge? To encourage them to walk or use the bridge itself, the sidewalk over the bridge, to, rather than stay in the traffic lane? How they traverse that safely from,
Right, well, I mean, like right now they can do either, right? So they can either ride on the road, because that's the state statute, or they can ride on the sidewalk, because
could
we
we
allow
have a
that as
sign
well.
that would encourage them to use the sidewalk in that short stretch?
That's kind of a sticky situation, because I could probably bring, 50% of the people that would argue they should be on the street, 50% that say they should be
Well,
on the
we've got
sidewalk.
that all over the city with, there are areas where bicyclists don't feel safe on the road.
Right,
They use sidewalks, and we discussed that here
right,
with one of our past meetings, multi-purpose sidewalk.
right.
And in that area, you're restricted because of the bridge and the bump out.
Yeah, I think it's personal choice. I mean, if someone's comfortable, riding their bike on the street, they can.
Use sidewalk, please. Something to encourage it.
Which was gonna be my question too. How do we deal with the transition right at the bridge? If you've got northbound traffic coming up the bridge,
Yeah.
or more problematic, southbound traffic, once they get to the north end of the bridge, they're left with a choice to make. And I think Ross raises a good point. We should, and then again, I know we've discussed this, but we should try and encourage people onto the sidewalk to get across the bridge. I've seen a lot of signs in my day, but I don't recall a sign specific to that. but
No, I don't either.
you,
Can create one.
Right, exactly.
Could we do some arrows and then like some design of a sign, like bicycle-friendly sidewalk?
Well, bicyclists use sidewalk. And it's right there as they approach the sidewalk on the bridge.
I don't think, I'm just thinking out loud here, but I think we gotta be a little bit careful, because by state statute, bicycles can share the street. So I don't know that, we can't do anything signage wise. There's a potential you could do some type of an advisory sign, but again, it's pretty sticky. I'd have to check with some people to see if that's even allowed.
Could be a caution sign shape.
Yeah.
That's a state highway. Does the state have any feelings on these
Uh,
situations? It's connecting highway. They generally leave, that they might have an opinion on, but like bike lanes, they generally leave the jurisdiction to the local authority.
Okay, well, let's look at the street I live on, Jackson. You won't find anybody riding a bike in the right-hand lane on Jackson, north or south. It's too dangerous. Everybody rides their bike on the sidewalk, 'cause it just makes common sense. No objection to it, from my point of view, 'cause it's the only safe way to ride your bike.
Once in a while, I'll go down Jackson and there'll be some person that shouldn't be on a bicycle riding down the road, and then everybody gets nervous driving
Oh,
around them.
sure.
Mhm.
And it slows down traffic and it potentially causes a bumper accident.
The lanes aren't your standard width. But, it's encouraged. And then not just Jackson, there are other streets around the city where. share the
Sidewalk available
sidewalk.
to bicycle traffic, just popped into my head.
Yeah.
Yellow
Yeah,
and black, diamond shaped.
Yeah, I'll have to see what's available by, we use the MUTCD, the standard signs. I'll see if
Sure.
I'll
And
have to
it-
see what's available.
right.
Instead of a rectangular regulatory sign, it would be diamond shape. And it's a state highway, just like, there's no difference.
Is there some immediacy in dealing with this today?
As far as the bike lanes go,
Mhm.
the original hope was if we were gonna paint them, it would be during this street painting season, so, which we're towards the end of. There's an outside shot, you know, it's probably 50-50 whether we could get it done at this point. 'Cause it's, well, the weather so far is cooperating, so if it stays like this for the next couple of weeks, there's a potential we could get it done, yet this year, but it would, so this would go to, with a favorable recommendation, it would go to council the end of October, so it would kind of depend on the weather. That's getting kind of late to do the street paintings. That's probably, it would depend on the weather at that point. But if, the other option is if you were in favor of it, and council approved at the end of October, if we didn't get it done this year, then we would obviously get it done when we started painting in the spring.
Which though gives us the opportunity in the wintertime to further explore.
Well, what's the safest for both drivers and bicyclists? I mean, when you start getting crowded as a driver, leads to other problems. So. I'm for encouraging sidewalk use on that. I'm not a big fan of bikes on sidewalks, but
What is a wide
we're
sidewalk?
really hogtied here with the construction and the bump out, but
I truly believe the bicyclists do deserve a bicycle lane on that bridge, but for the safety aspect of it, it doesn't make any sense at all. And people go 45 miles an hour over that bridge.
So, but just to clarify, so this proposal goes for not on the bridge. This would
Right,
be from.
but the point
from
I was trying to
here
make is
forward.
there's a transition point
Right.
in there that gets a little sticky and ugly, potentially for southbound.
well, that would have to be worked out of where the transition.
Right, and all I'm suggesting is I'm a little reticent to move forward with this until there's some clarification on how that transition gets made at the actual north end of the bridge.
Bicycle
Because-
traffic goes way down over the winter, so it's nothing. It's gonna be
Right,
real
exactly,
major.
my point, yes. So, that's why I asked the question whether there was some immediacy to this.
I suggest we move to lay it over to a future date.
What's reasonable, Mr. Collins, assuming Dan?
So what are you looking, you're looking for just to see how the,
What
where they would
what the
start.
transition can be there, and if in fact we can encourage the use of the sidewalk
Okay.
at that point.
Well, you're talking transition from,
Well, from the end of the bike
Road.
lane at the north end of the bridge to, because there's gonna be someone that wants to go southbound across the bridge.
yeah,
And I don't want them popping into that lane of traffic for all the reasons we've already talked about on numerous
right,
occasions.
okay, I see what you're talking about.
So if we can actually get them to use that curb cut, if they want to continue southbound instead of going onto the trail, to continue south down Ohio Street. Because it inevitably will happen.
yeah, what we would do is we'd probably stripe it, you know, here and then solid white line going on to the, you know, so the bike lane would be, you know, would curve this way and then, onto the ramp here. What I could do is, let's see. Well, over the winter, I can check if one of our, one of the engineering guys can maybe just do something in CAD and we can kind of show what that would look like. You know, they generally in winter, they might have a little more time, so is that possible?
Right,
I mean, at least we'd have something to show you then. But, and then I'll look into the signage.
So Dan, if you would restate your request?
I move to lay this over to a future date to be determined.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns on the motion to lay over? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have laid over that item, which then brings us to staff statements.
All right. I don't have any for this meeting.
I do have a request for a future crash report. I know that sounds horrible to say, but you give us one of those periodically.
Yep.
Can we make an effort, and again, it's somewhat related to what we were just talking about, and again, I don't know if PD keeps track, but with the proliferation of bike lanes, have we started to keep track of near miss and reports on near miss with bike lanes?
I have no way to get a report on that. I don't.
Is there a
We've
way?
not- We frequently don't even get bike accidents reported to us, so to get near miss reports, I think would,
That's my fear, that we're gonna overlook some of those issues as we move forward, as we keep making them, because I see people make right-hand turns through the bike lane daily. And I've seen a few near misses.
Okay, now the striping in some cases is solid. And then there's some new areas where it's probably a 6 or 8 inch stripe, which comes closer to the intersection, which makes more sense.
Yep.
Because now it's telling you, I think, that you can move over closer to the curb.
You should move over,
Yeah.
not that you
Yeah.
can. Right, yeah.
But some people are saying that solid white line, that's bicycle lane only, and I gotta go all the way down and I can't cross it.
Yeah, we're actually kind of learn as we go there.
That's a better,
You know, when they started the bike lanes, they started by putting the solid lines, and I've seen cities do it both ways. And then we actually, a few years ago, we saw some cities that were starting to, do the transition lines. So we started doing that like about the time so probably about four years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a mix there, and it's just,
and that's carryover from, say, Highway 41, where
Right.
you get the broken line
yeah,
as the exit
Right.
ramp comes up.
Well, the protocol from here on, though, is gonna be dashed line as you
that's what we've
approach.
been doing close to the intersections,
Yeah.
because like,
That's
for
what-
instance, I mean, if there is a solid, it's, like on a high, for instance, cars, bikes and cars have to merge, and you have to kind of yield to the bikes at the end of the bike lane, but it does, intuitively, it makes more sense if you have that dashed line, so you know that you can get over. You still gotta watch for bikes, but at least you know you can do it.
And you expose your right tail light too for blinking, to let people know that are coming up that you're making a right-hand turn,
Right.
talking to the other drivers.
Anyone else have anything for
Yeah.
future agenda?
I brought this up at the last meeting about the South Park event parking, and it's continued to worsen. In the past, do you know if the police, they always put out those temporary no parking signs? But this summer, the only time I seen they did it was for the Labor Day thing. And so without those no parking signs, people are parking up the whole area on both sides. And like, I've lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years, and we never had a problem until this year. And another huge problem is that Osborne Street, it's got the special event parking, no parking signs, and people just completely disregard that.
construction in that area has probably caused a lot of the issues. Hopefully that resolves, but
But this was going on all summer, and the construction didn't start until July, and this is a problem, like I said, in June, and, the only time it really, had a lot of parking overflow for events is the art fair. 'Cause like I said, I've lived here for 20 years in that neighborhood.
if you're seeing parking violations, definitely call the non-emergency number and an officer can come by and,
Well, they're not really a violation because they're not putting up those signs.
okay.
You know what I mean? The police always
So
put
they're
up those.
parking legally?
Yeah, but like I said, like I said, for 20 years, the police put up those signs. Now all of a sudden they're not doing it. I don't know if there's a directive to the department not to put up signs or what, but like I said, the only time the police put up the temporary signs was at the Labor Day thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I know in the past, so, the part that was converted to now permanent no parking during special events, obviously they don't sign that anymore, but I think what Dan's saying is and I haven't been out there, but I think they might have signed more of an area, but maybe now because there's that permanent signage, they're not signing some other areas, I don't know.
I can talk with Sergeant Stenson, but if there are temporary no parking signs put up for special events, it's, coordinated with the event.
Yeah, like I said, they used to be the standard practice that they put up those signs. And now, like I said, the only event they did for was the Labor Day picnic. And you got like a farmer's market every week, the food truck things. The food truck, had a huge attendance this year. And like the whole thing of Osborne was parked full, the no parking zone and the regular parking zone.
Something that's weekly like that, I wouldn't foresee.
That's a once a
Or-
month.
Okay.
Well, like I said, I lived here for 20 years, and without fail, the police put up those signs, and now all of a sudden, you know, they didn't do it. I understand about the construction, but like I said, this was going on all summer and the construction didn't start until after the 4th of July.
I'll look into that.
The other thing I was thinking, maybe you could check with the church, what parking they require, because maybe we could make some of that area just no parking, you know? Or if the church doesn't need the parking adjacent to their property, you know, they've got, you know, I mean, if they don't need the parking, they might need it, let's say, on
Right.
certain occasions, or,
Yeah, that whole area, that's kind of, since I've been here anyway, that it's kind of, you do one thing and then you're gonna satisfy some people and then you're gonna upset the other. I mean, I know the police, when they did give tickets this summer at a couple special events, I got a few complaint calls about that, because they're like, well, what happened? When did the parking change? And
I think we could probably use a few more of those signs, you know, they're kind of, some of them are spaced far apart on Osborne there.
well, they weren't complaining about the signs, they were complaining about getting a ticket. Even though they knew
But
they weren't.
arguably, if you pay attention to the sign, you don't get the ticket, so.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I
if you see a sign and there's
Yeah,
an
I-
event going on, you would think.
I guess I'll work, I know I talked to Sergeant Simpson a little bit about it last time we got a complaint, but we'll have to kind of collaborate a little better.
Because like I said, you got both, you got like Osborne parked full of both sides, Georgia parked full of both sides, and, you know,
Right.
with the park, you got, you know, a ton of kids, so like, it's easy for a kid to dart out in front of somebody's car.
Yeah,
Obviously, you're driving slower because you know, but you can't really fit one car on Osborne.
right. Yeah, I guess we'll collaborate a little bit more on it.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean-
parking lot's getting redone this summer, so that'll give them, it's not really gonna add a
Oh,
ton of
no,
space.
it's not gonna add
but-
much, you know, when you have an event, like I said, you know, like, you know, I live, my driveway's on 10th, and people park, you know, on 10th for the art fair,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
Got park somewhere.
right,
Yeah, I'm just saying the South Park parking lot isn't gonna
right.
alleviate any concerns, but like I said, the main concern is Georgia and Osborne. Because like I said, in the past, they always had the temporary signs, and I never had a problem, you know, like this year, like every minor event, you know, it's so hectic. You know, and like I said, what's going on before the road construction, or park construction too.
Anyone else with a potential future agenda item? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
We are adjourned.